Yo, 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 this is Damage Per Second Podcast. That is DPS Podcast, episode 227. And we are back on a funky Thursday night. Stink butts are all right. I don't know. I tried to rhyme that. I don't know where I was going with it. I'm tired. I apologize.
I don't know where you.
Five Thursday night feeling all right. Okay, I did the usual. I did the usual. Okay, my bad. I am your co-host SloMoBackSlap with my homie, my other co-host here, Gaming Forte. What's up? What's up, Forte?
What's up? How you doing, man? What is new out here? Other than Jade Raymond isn't sticking in one place.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about Miss Raymond, who
that lady. She good looking. She good looking woman, but she changed her draws, like, you know. It's kind of crazy. Nothing.
Okay, we are so off today. We talking about changing.
Man. She changed her studios more than she changed her underwear.
Okay, there we go. I think that was what you were working for. No, yeah, she we're gonna get to that later because that's pretty interesting. I think we need to stop caring so much about who is involved in a particular project. If you know,
they may not be there.
Right. So anyway, what you been up to, man? What you been playing over the past week?
I just started playing Doom yesterday. I refused to give Microsoft $30 to play it 2 days early, so I jumped in yesterday, and can't lie, man, I was having I jumped in just to like see what performance of my PC looked like. First of all, I would say this: Lord have mercy, does my graphics card get hot playing that game? My God, I'm talking about 90, which is what you want to see on PC, 98% utilization. For your,
I thought you were about to say 98% degrees. I was about to be like, whoa, that's not supposed to happen.
No, 98% utilization, and I think my temp got up to like 71. But I put my hand on it, you know.
I've never seen my GPU that hot.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was like 71. I had to go look at the thing. I might have been looking at the wrong thing, but I think it got up to
the highest I've seen my 4080 Super Go was like low 60s. Like 63 or something like that.
You know, we are pulling like an extra like 100 watts out of this thing. So it's pretty great. What is the wattage on the 4090? I can't remember. The wattage draw?
Oh man, it's up there. I don't remember exactly what it was. Yeah.
I think it's in the low fours, because I know the 5090 is in the high. It's like the low fives.
The 5090 is ridiculous.
It's like 510 or some 520 or some crap.
It's higher than that. I thought the 5090 was in the 600s. Well, maybe it can spike to that, but I thought it was in the 600s. But
what?
But no, how regardless of the performance, how are you?
575, 600 limit.
That's close. Yeah,
it's close enough. Good God.
What is how are you liking the game?
I like it, man. Like I said, I popped it on just to like test out some performance and stuff on it, capture some gameplay. Because I would like I was just saying before we started, I had fell out of Adobe Premiere and paying. Like, I was looking at my account, and what happened was I went to go do a thumbnail for something, and it was like, check your payment method. I was like, what do you mean check? It's like auto pay. It just comes out every month. And then I was like, oh, and then I went to go look, and I said, oh, they got my old card on file because my debit card had expired, and they sent me a new one. So I'd never updated it on there. And then I was like, and that happened like with a couple of different things I had over the course of that month. It was just that this was like, my Adobe always renews like in the middle of the month, and I got my card at the beginning of it. So I was like, okay. And then I looked to go pay it, and I was like, holy crap, I'm paying how much? because I just paid it, and it was like $60 a month, and I was like, oh no, we're not doing this. And then it was telling me that I couldn't do the cancel. Like someone told me you have to go to cancellation under your account, and if you do a cancellation and say that you want to cancel your subscription, they'll let you do a renewal in a new plan for like half the price. And I was like, oh, I'll pay $30. That's what I was used to paying.
But how long is that half a price? Because typically that's like a limited time thing.
It's for a year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's for a whole year. Yeah. So I had to wait because with them, you have to, like, if you're in payment standing, it was like, oh, you can't even access the change plan menu when you owe them, like when you technically your plan is expired or your payment is messed up. So I got on the phone with them and they told me, I said, well, I don't want to pay this and I don't want you guys to charge this card if I don't want to stick with it. He was like, well, what you have to do is you have to wait until your date is up for you to pay for your next month, which was June 16th. Well, it would have been May 16th this month. They said the day before it unlocks it, giving you the option to be able to like make changes to your plan, even if you're in payment default on it. And I was like, oh, okay. So today I logged in and sure enough, it allowed me to access my account and change the plan and let me re-up again for $39.99. Now, what was interesting, they actually gave me an option to do 60 days for free, but after the 60 days, it would have went back to $59.99. And I was like, yeah, I'm not stupid. I'll just go pay this $31.79 and get back on it. But it's been rough this week not having that, man, because I've been like I said, I was telling you, SloMo, like that's part of the reason why I haven't been doing any like content or anything for like the last month and a half, because that was out and I wasn't about to like try to learn how to do DaVinci Resolve. That would have took forever. But we're back in the swing on that. I got that back up for a year, so we're good on that. But yeah, so I was capturing Doom gameplay and I was like going through the tutorial rounds and I was like, dude, the melee, that is a melee focus heavy game. Like everything from the shield bash to running around, locking up people with the shield, like using the shield to like go across vast distances in an arena, like shield basking and shotgunning. I felt like I was a Vanguard in Mass Effect playing with this character. It is so OP. It is so great. And then I played for like 2 hours and then I finally like died to an enemy and I was like, okay, I'm good. I'll come back and play some more later. And that was last night. But yeah, I'm liking the game, man. The game feels good. It looks good. I tried playing it with keyboard and mouse and I played it with with keyboard and mouse, and then I played it with controller on PC. Of course, it feels better with keyboard and mouse because it doesn't feel as floaty when you play with a controller. But either way you play, the game is phenomenal. The game looks good, and the soundtrack on that game is incredible. Like really,
okay, it's like your, like the heavy metal kind of. Yes. I guess it's heavy metal. Yeah. Like when you first drop in and they send the Doomslayer in, it's like this symphony of metal and rock that just rolls through the whole environment. And when you see him, like just looking at Doomslayer with that cloak, with that furry cloak on, it's like so iconic, bro. It looks so that game looks phenomenal, bro. Phenomenal. But what kind of frames you getting on your 4090?
With everything maxed out, and I'm running at 105 FOV, everything maxed out, okay. 3840 by 1600, because it's basically 3K.
Ultra wide.
Yeah, ultra wide 3K. I was getting between 91 and 110, depending on what was going on, with everything maxed out. With that was with no
frames in?
No frames in at all. That was just raw performance from the card.
Nice.
So I can imagine
Yeah,
if I did turn frame gen on, I'll probably be close in. I'll probably be in the 200s.
Yeah, more than likely. I haven't been playing Doom. As you know, I'm not really interested in the Doom games. They just never really drew me in. Right. So I just I just been kind of like listening to what people have to say about it, which is, it still doesn't, entice me to try it out. But I'm glad that people are enjoying it. I know it had like a mid 80s Metacritic when it launched, so that's good. That's good. I've still been playing Expedition 33.
Oh, I see the gameplay. You, what level are you now?
I'm max level.
Oh my god.
Everyone's max level 99, and I'm in Act 3 of New Game Plus.
Oh my god. It's something about seeing all your characters with max levels next to their names, and it's like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's like that RPG dream to see every character maxed out, and then now that we have New Game Plus, it actually gives it a little bit more significance because you're scaling your attacks and your builds and everything to go even further than even you think they can go, against even more tougher enemies and foes. So as soon as I saw the screenshot and I saw those 99s, I was like, whoo. I said, yeah, that's some work right there.
Yeah, man. I've put a lot of work in. I got builds that, I could pretty much probably play solo. Cause like you could actually like take people out of your party or put them in reserve. You can probably put your entire party in reserve except for one person. I could probably play the majority of the game in New Game Plus with just one character at this point, if I wanted to, and I could probably do that for all of them. That's how like I've kind of like min-maxed their builds at this point. Yeah. The Luminous, which is like, so there's this thing. They're basically mods, but they're called Pictos in the game, and you can equip 3 of them. What's special about the 33rd expedition is that they got this thing that Gustav, the character, created called the Luminous Converter. And essentially, if you have a Pictos on, and if you have it on for like 4 battles, everyone else in your party, depending on if they have like the space for it, can also have the ability of that Pictos as well. And so it makes it so that even in New Game Plus, you can still continue to grow because you continue to keep collecting that thing called Color of Luminous, which allows you to increase your luminous limit so that you can basically equip more Pictos to your character, and you also continue to grow in the levels of your weapons and the levels of your Pictos as well, because the ones that you have equipped, they have a certain level, and the higher the level gets, the higher the stats are for that specific Pictos. So I have been doing that and fighting bosses again. I haven't fought Simon again. I'm gonna beat Simon again post patch, nerf of Mael, whose ability got nerfed, where people were one-shotting the hardest boss in the game. I'm gonna go beat him without that. It don't matter to me. So, but I've been playing it a lot. I'm also in Act 3 on the Xbox. Don't judge me. That's not New Game Plus on the Xbox. New Game Plus on Steam on PC. On Xbox is the original regular game. So anyway, that's what I've been playing. I did play a little bit of Call of Duty. I played with Numsy, shout out to Numsy, who refuses to play Call of Duty with me anymore. Yeah.
What you do? Why you don't play with you?
I ain't do nothing, man.
Yeah, your skill-based matchmaking is crazy.
You already knew. So we playing, and we just having a good time. We talking about just regular stuff, and then he just starts freaking out, and I'm like, dude, what's the problem? And he's just like, yo, look at the scoreboard. And I looked, and I was like, oh, I ain't gonna say what his KD was because it was bad.
Oh,
I ain't gonna say what it was. It was pretty bad though. Like I would be upset if that was my KD. I probably would have turned the game off.
I would be upset. I'm out of here, bro.
So he's like, well, I'm by myself. This ain't a problem. And then like his wife was like in the background laughing. And then I think that car probably made him a little bit angrier because she was laughing about it. And then she was like, well, why isn't SloMo having this problem? And then he's getting angry about that. And then he just all of a sudden, I ain't playing Call of Duty with you no more.
Oh man, you losing all your friends on Call of Duty.
I know, right? So now it's like, well, what can I do? We played some Fortnite after that. So he'll still play Fortnite with me. But that's the first time I played something that wasn't Expedition. Actually, I didn't mean to say that. Well, yeah, that was the first time I had played something that wasn't Expedition 33 over the past 2 weeks. I did play some Spider-Man 2 on PC today just because I wanted to get some footage for the show. It's been installed and staring at me on my desktop for like the longest. Like, when are you gonna play me, bro? So like,
right.
I guess now that I finally started it, I will play it. I've been holding out because I really wanted just find some mods for some characters in the game that I would like to change out. I'm not going to say any names, but if y'all probably know what I'm talking about, I wanted to change out a couple of characters, to kind of yeah. So, but like apparently, especially on Nexus mods, they got a problem with people wanting to change that character out. So I don't know. Maybe I need to go off of Nexus mods and find a mod somewhere else. Anywho, that is all really I've been playing. I haven't really been playing anything else. I'm not going to play Doom. And it's May now. I can't think of what else is coming out over the next couple of months that I will want to play. Is there anything else coming?
No, well, nothing that has release dates or anything. I know we're still waiting to see if Lost Suicide is actually going to still release this year. Oh
yeah, but that got delayed to. We talked about that last week. They got delayed to August, which is, I would say, probably the worst time for it to get delayed to, because there's so much coming out around that time frame.
I think they might delay it again I think it might get delayed again due to the fact that Grand Theft Auto got moved out of the year. I think you're going to see a lot of games that were probably banking on that coming out this holiday and trying to have their game come out earlier. I think they're going to reassess and push their games back now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what's been going on with Util Zero Games is the name of that studio. I've been kind of like, after I kind of just gave up on it coming out, I've been pretty much out of the loop on it. Right. So I haven't really been paying too much attention to it, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if it got delayed again. It's just, that's been what this studio has been doing since 2017. So there's no shocker there. Oh, my bad. Elden Ring Night Rain is supposed to come out at the end of the month. So that's probably the next thing that I'll be really playing that isn't like my typical usual stuff. And then I did get one of my friends a Nintendo Switch 2. That was cool. I was happy to do that.
That's what's up.
Yeah, it was so you know how if you signed up for, let's say you had interest with Nintendo and you had your account and you signed up to get an invite. Eventually, well, I got the invite, so they hit me up, and I was like, oh well, I had a friend that was looking for one, and I told you about the other friend that ended up not getting it, but then like my other friend was immediately like, yeah, I'll take it.
He didn't want it.
Yeah.
He ain't really want it.
But my other friend immediately jumped on it, so it's paid for. Of course, it's still gotta come to me, but then he lives local. I could just he could just come pick it up once it arrives or whatever.
Hopefully he drop you a finder's fee.
I don't need nothing like that. I'm good.
I know you
know,
don't
I
need.
just,
I
I just,
know you.
I
don't.
just wanted
I'm
to
just saying.
I just
saying.
wanted to make sure that people who were looking for were able to get one.
But it's always appreciated when you go out and you get one for a person, and you're not asking for it, but if a person comes through and like brings you a case of beer, it's cool. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah.
Not saying you have to.
Well, maybe you will, maybe you won't. We'll see. If he does, I do like Fat Tire. I do like that Fat Tire
really
IPA.
Good. Yeah. IPA Fat Tire is really good, bro.
Sometimes they're listening, so hey, you know what to do, bro. Anyway, I mean, outside of that, like it's just been work stuff and home improvement things that the usual. Anything else you want to talk about before we get into? Oh, I did want to give an update on the whole super chats issue. So we got a little dilemma going on with YouTube. We got some things that we're trying to get sorted out, and so we kind of hit a threshold where we needed to have certain. I'm not trying to bog down the show with this, but there's some things we gotta work out with YouTube. We're still working on it, so don't worry about that. If you were wanting to send super chats, we do appreciate that, and we are glad that you have the desire to do so, and we're going to accommodate that as soon as we can. It's just taking a little time because we gotta get some things sorted.
I did talk to some people already about that. We'll talk about that after. What we need to do.
Cool. All right, but that was just a quick update because I know that it's been a topic of conversation for the past 2 episodes, and I did not want anyone to think that it was not something that wasn't on our mind. It wasn't being worked on. So
right.
Yeah. You want to get into these rapid fire topics, man?
Yeah, sir.
All righty. Let's see. Hold on. Is this okay, cool. So Ubisoft Ubisoft is back in the news again, and you want to root for them, and then they do things that kind of make you go, Ubisoft, what are you doing? So Ubisoft has announced that Charlie Guillemot, who is the son of the CEO, Yves Guillemot, for Ubisoft, has been added to the Internal Transformation Committee. Now, this committee is overseeing the new subsidiary that they created with Tencent that is now running all of Ubisoft's most popular IPs. That's Assassin's Creed, that is Rainbow Six Siege, and or the Rainbow Six in general. And what was the other one? Far Cry, I think.
Yep, Far Cry.
Yep. So that's what this new subsidiary is in charge of, and the son of the CEO is a part of that committee now. Now, a lot of Ubisoft developers have expressed concerns about this, and their concerns is that many of the board for this new subsidiary are some of the same people whose decision making has put Ubisoft in the current predicament that they are in right now. So the concern is that nothing has changed, and nothing will change due to the people who are in charge. And so, Forte, what are your thoughts on that, man?
I mean, restructuring the new. I don't know what to do. I don't know what's going to happen with them. Ultimately, it's like they didn't, like the Guillemots didn't want to give up ownership. Kind of find out they did this transformation move where a lot of the stuff is being split over. I think they still have 51%, or did that go? Do they not have that anymore?
They still have majority.
They still had the majority still, because basically they, even through this whole transformation thing that they're doing, they're still maintaining the fact that it's still their final decision that anything that happens with Ubisoft, because they still own.
It's a bit more complicated than that. Tencent does now have more say in what goes on. They just don't really control things, and
which is so weird. I mean, that's the PlayStation Bungie up until last year.
Right, and so I think the weirdness of it is that, so I can't remember all the details. So I remember when it was brand new news and I was looking through everything. I remembered all the details, but there's like veto rules that the Guillermo family has in regards to certain decisions and stuff. And it's I think for a lot of people, they were just kind of hoping. And it's wild that people will hope this, considering how people feel about Tencent. But the Guillermo family's decision making and the people that have been in charge of Ubisoft are looked upon so poorly that even Tencent, despite people not really liking Tencent kind of trying to own everything or running everything, they were really hoping Tencent, but their decision making would kind of rule out, or they could kind of influence what happens. But we don't want to pass judgment. We haven't seen anything yet that this new subsidiary is working on, but it just kind of looks not good when you got some of the same people that made really terrible decisions with Ubisoft continue to make terrible decisions after their terrible decisions did not pan out, who are now in charge of or a part of the decision-making process for going forward. It just seems very like you don't learn, like you're not learning anything. Anything else you want to say on this before we move on? We don't have to linger on the topic for too long.
We have to linger on something that isn't going to matter in 2-3 years probably.
Oh, you don't have to say that. That's right.
Division might be the last. Division might be the last great game they released.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping Division 3 makes it out before who knows what happens, from here with them. Just give me Division 3, please. That's all I want. That's all I want.
Hopefully what is their engine? Snowdrop engine?
Yep.
Hopefully that doesn't go away like the Nemesis system did.
I think it probably will. Like if Ubisoft goes under, I think a lot of the technology. They got some really good technology too, like a lot of the backhand tools that they use for development are really good. It's the reason why they have so many studios that can work in synergy together. And it's I just feel like it's for naught when your decision makers are not the best. But yeah, we can move on. I forgot the gunshots. I forgot the pop. My bad. But yeah.
Flipping this bitch in Harlem, you don't stop fucking with me. Now put the razor away.
Well, go ahead.
Forte.
There it is. Shoot.
Forte.
Quick, go ahead. Take your best shot.
Forte.
Yeah.
Forte.
Yes.
Did you have to play that part of Harlem Nights?
I actually hit the wrong button. I meant to hit.
Well, this is no longer a family-friendly program.
Hey, well, no, the last 10 seconds definitely are.
See, it's like I became host so we wouldn't have these issues, and then you still use your soundboard to create these issues, and it's just it's a Forteism. That's what it is. I'm gonna call it Forteism.
Give it a break, SloMo. Give it a break.
No, because look, see, when I put this up on Spotify and iTunes, I gotta go in and edit that out. I gotta go in and edit the mother effers and everything else out, and I'm just like,
2 seconds. Maybe 5.
That was it's about 10 good seconds.
Take a second that we'll never get back.
Anyway, second topic. No pow-pows. Arrowhead, the developer of Helldivers 2. Woo-hoo. Arrowhead is working on a new game. And it's kind of taking a lot of people by surprise that they are self-funding their next project. And they said they are still open with working with PlayStation in the future. But according to Shams Georgiani of Arrowhead, he said this on their Discord. The next game is 100% funded by ourselves, so we'll call 100% of those shots. And I, interesting comments there. And you kind of don't want to infer too much from that.
Mm-hmm.
Because he could just be saying that because, he could be just talking creatively, right? He could be talking about money, where the money is split, how it's split that, hey, we get, maybe they kind of felt like they didn't get enough back from Helldivers 2 and they want they want all of that money for their next game. They haven't closed the door to working with PlayStation. They seem to have a great relationship with them. But that said, it seems like, and maybe I am jumping the gun here, but it seems like to me their next project would be a multi-platform game. What do you think, Forte?
No, I kind of was thinking the same thing. That looks like the direction that they probably would be going in that direction. But the biggest thing is, like, if they did, what would it be? Like, would it be a new IP, or would it be something that's already established that they already pretty much know?
This is definitely going to be a new IP, but based on the things that they've said. They probably don't even own the Helldivers IP. That's probably owned by Sony. But a lot of this is reminiscent to me of what I know of what happened with Supermassive.
Yeah.
So Supermassive was exclusively making games for PlayStation. They did Until Dawn. Everyone loves it. Well, most people do. And then they did a couple of like smaller, like similar experiences that were PlayStation exclusive, like Hidden Agenda. Mm-hmm. And some VR games for PSVR. Right. And then they wanted, some of this is hearsay, but it seems to be backed up by a lot of facts about what has happened between the relationship between Sony Interactive Entertainment and Supermassive. But essentially, they wanted to do, and they only used the Decima engine, which is, owned by Sony, for Until Dawn. Everything else they've done has been on Unreal Engine. And they wanted to take Until Dawn 2 and make it a multi-platform game. And that was something that Sony was not interested in. And as what they were working on with Until Dawn 2 turned out to be the Quarry, which sucks in my opinion, but hey, whatever, right? But Gregor says, love Helldivers tutorial gameplay in the sweet year. Gregor, I couldn't find any more gameplay. I don't know where my other gameplay for Helldivers 2 went. And I wasn't going to reinstall the game to give more. So you're stuck with it, okay? Enjoy the tutorial gameplay. Anyway.
Stuck, bro.
Sony's very much not interested in basically putting their games everywhere. Like we see that with Microsoft. Their games that go to PlayStation, they market their games on PlayStation. PlayStation isn't doing the opposite. And so I wonder if that may have been the main reason why whatever they're currently working on is now going to be, a multi-platform title. So, your thoughts on that? Forte?
Oh, I was talking and I'm muted. No, I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, the fact that they are still leaving the door open to still work with PlayStation lets you know that it's not like any bad dealings or anything like that. I do think that they just want to see what it looks like to, have full. Not to say they didn't have full control over what was going on with Helldivers, but like I said, when you're being backed by a bigger entity like PlayStation or Sony, there's definitely some things that are being done between, the two, the two that's going to make it a little bit more challenging to like kind of even really think outside the box of things that you probably wanted to do that you probably can't do. Especially when you're talking about an established franchise already, established as, I mean, it already had one version of the game that came out already. So I do think that that's good. And I'm just super happy to see them try to do this on their own. I think every developer should. Now, it's a scary proposition because, you don't have the security blanket of a major publisher or platform holder supporting you if times do get hard, or when it comes down to like development timelines and crunch and stuff, and being able to like lean back and have that income already there versus now you have to make that income happen. And then
it's not easy.
It's not easy.
But we've seen multiple developers try to go independent and it don't work out. Bungie tried it. Didn't work out.
3 times tried it or 2 times.
People Can Fly in a way they've always been an independent company, but if you recall with Outriders, they did not like the deal they had with Square Enix. Square Enix went and basically got the lion's share of the money that game generated, even put the game, launched it in Game Pass. None of that went towards whatever, it would take for them to get, paid off the project. Right. They very publicly, in a lot of their investor calls and statements, said they were going to try to go independent after that. And so far, that hasn't really panned out. I do know of a few games that they are working on that they haven't quite announced yet, or they haven't been announced by the publisher yet, so I'm not going to speak on them. But the independent stuff that they were trying to do, as far as I know, has all been canceled. And so they've kind of gone back to trying to get a publishing deal for games or working with studios, sometimes in the support capacity. And that just kind of shows how volatile the industry is and how difficult it is to go out on your own and do it. So I do hope that Arrowhead is able to get that done. And I think a lot of the drama, remember the drama that happened with Helldivers 2 in the PC community? I feel a lot of that was just kind of exasperated by Sony and the rules that they had. Yeah. And sure, Arrowhead, so to kind of recap that, the PC community didn't like that when the game first launched, it didn't have a PSN requirement, which I think the whole thing is stupid to begin with, but that's just me because I don't care about PSN requirements. But it didn't have a PSN requirement at launch. And then months later, the game blows up, and then they are then adding in the PSN requirement there. And so people were upset because it's like, it was that, and then certain countries were being blocked after they had already bought the game. But all of this stuff really wasn't being forced by Arrowhead. It was being forced by Sony, who's the publisher, who has the right to do that. But that kind of goes into how they feel about calling 100% of the shots. Well, if we're calling the shots, we don't get bad PR for decisions that we didn't really care to make. Arrowhead doesn't care about PSN. PlayStation cares about PSN. And so when you're calling 100% of the shots, you don't have those kind of issues. So yeah. Anything else you want to say about this before we move on?
Nope, I'm good.
Cool. Next rapid fire topic. Pop, 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 pop. Do not use the soundboard. Forte, I don't want to hit. So anyway, Marvel 1943. Remember that game?
Yep, kind of.
I think this game is Amy Hennig is working on this game.
Yep.
It's the one that's got Black Panther in it. The guy that was played the King Ezekiel in the Walking Dead TV show is the one that's performing as Black Panther, like an older Black Panther, T'Challa's father or whatever. So this game got delayed out of 2025, unfortunately. It's supposed to be now delayed to early 2026. They say the game needs additional time to be polished and to be better optimized. I do appreciate that. Please don't release a buggy piece of crap. But that said, I kind of wonder. I feel like we've seen a little bit of gameplay, but it's been a while since we've seen anything from this game. I kind of wonder. Because this was announced after the GTA 6 delay.
Mm-hmm.
If they, clearly, I think they're still going to want to try to come out before May. They don't want to go up against GTA 6. But I do think that maybe that might play some part into their decision to delay the game to make sure that it's better polished. What are your thoughts on it?
Man, I am so weary of games like this when you have such a up and down development timeline. You know, it's this, it's that. You push this back, and then we need to add more and more. It's like the biggest thing that I see, which is the problem, is the ambition side of it. It just gets way too big. You see you have a property like Marvel, and then the sky, it's like in your mind the sky is the limit, and then come to find out you kind of need to just stay on a railroad track that you are already on, and not try to overcompensate or just do more things. Like, that's the biggest thing. And I understand a lot of this stuff comes up in pre-production, things that you feel like, oh, this would be a really great idea to do, and this would be awesome to add, and then next thing you know, you say, yeah, let's do that, and then you didn't realize the undertaking it would do to add all these extra systems and stuff to the game that you want to do, which cripple your timeline and then push you back like 3 to 4 months, and then next thing you know, you got an extra year of development added onto the game that you wasn't expecting. Now, there have been games that has benefited, and hopefully this is one of those games. But I just feel like at this point, I just want games just to come out, and I just want people to just make, I'm not going to say your game simple, because I do think a lot of people like the fact that games can have a little bit more edge to them in the way that they produce themselves and in the way that they interact with you as the gamer. But I just sometimes think that developers put a little bit more extra into games, but don't really think about it. It's like the artist. It's like, matter of fact, it's like me with content creation. I'll look at a video and say, this is good. But then I'll look at it like 20 minutes later, it's like, I don't like this. I want to do this one thing differently. Whereas that video was perfectly fine. Was it a 10 out of 10? Probably not. But it was still a 9 out of 10. It might have been a 9.5 out of 10. Anybody else that watched that video been like, this is great. You should have just released this a week ago. Why? And that's what I think happens inside the development. Developers is kind of just, see all of the things that they can do, and they want to push their creative knowledge in the things that they do, and then that kind of hampers the development of a game over the course of time. So I don't want people to stop, doing things like that. I just want people to kind of put an emphasis on, like, okay, it's great that we want to add this, but what's the downside if we add this? How much time are we realistically adding to the timeline at the most if this doesn't go 100% or even 50% to the plan. And I think if they did stuff like that, then we wouldn't be seeing as many like delays and pushbacks and stuff, because I never look at a delay as a bad thing. But when you see so many of them happening around the same time, you know, before it was because of COVID. Now it's because, you know, games are bigger. People, you know, spend more money on games. So people want to give more people of the things that they want so they can stay in games longer. And then that's why you see all these extra delays to try to, you know, appease that audience. So it's cool, but, you know, I just want them to do less. Less is more, which is basically the thing I'm saying.
Yeah, I feel you. I do kind of wonder if like the additional polish and the desire to make sure it's really ready to go has a lot to do also with, say, the contracts that these publishers have with Marvel, because we've seen some of those contracts, and it's not your typical, hey, we're just gonna release this game, just go for it. No, it's pretty heavy with the amount of like revenue sharing for the game sales that go into for Disney, and the way they split these things and break it down. I know it's more involved for, say, like Sony, PlayStation on their platform, because they own PlayStation, and so we've seen stuff in their contracts where it's like they have to sell the Marvel game that they're making bundled into the PlayStation, you know, and then the split of the revenue is different for those bundles than it is for, say, just the game being sold on its own. And so I do wonder if EA is kind of trying to make sure that this one is definitely going to be worth their effort, because in the past EA has canceled games that Disney owned the IPs for, like Star Wars games, because they didn't think it would generate enough money to justify putting it out, because regardless if it's a bomb or if it sells great, Disney gonna get paid. So if your game it goes double wood, I still want my money. I don't care how you get it. You gonna give me my money. You know, is how Disney is basically goes about it. And so we've seen in the past where EA was just like, nah, we don't think this is going to work. Even for titles that people were super excited for, they didn't think it was going to sell. Mostly they were single player games, and so they chose not to even release it. And so I don't think that is quite the case here, but it wouldn't surprise me if their deal with Marvel is got them kind of trying to cross all the T's, dot all the I's, which for us as gamers, that's great, because we don't want to play a buggy, unfinished kind of game anyway. But it also does kind of makes you wonder if it's gonna get delayed even further from here, you know. Anything else you want to say on this, man, before we get into the main topics?
No, let's get into them.
All right. So let's talk about Jade Raymond for a moment. Jade Raymond, man, it just seems. I don't want people to think I'm being a jerk here, but she like tad overrated. I mean, like, let's just think about this for a second, okay? So let's just break it all down. According to Bloomberg, Jade Raymond has now left the studio that she created, Haven Studios. Now, Haven Studios was created independently and then sold to Sony Interactive Entertainment. They've been working on a game called Fair Games, which is, you know, the trailer. The only thing we've ever seen from this game is this announcement trailer that didn't show a lick of gameplay that you're seeing right now in the Jumbotron. Now, Jade was executive producer for Assassin's Creed 2. I think she worked on 1, but she was more of the executive producer on 2. She's worked on Assassin's Creed Bloodlines, Watch Dogs 1, which I wouldn't want that on my resume, but cool. And She did those things before leaving Ubisoft to work at EA. Now, at EA, you're going to start to see something very similar here. At EA, she worked on a game with EA Motive, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it wasn't EA Motive. I think EA Motive is still around. At least they were still around for a while. But whatever studio that she was working with EA got shut down. The game never launched. She left EA, went to Google Stadia.
Yep.
We know how that worked out.
How that
Google
turned
Stadia, right. She was working on the game for Google Stadia. Google shut down all first-party game development within a year of launching Stadia, which showed that Google had no idea what the heck they were doing. No one charges that to Jade, but then she leaves there with the bulk of the team that she had at Stadia to start Haven Studios, which she then sold the studio to Sony, and they've been working on Fair Games, their first game. Now, according to the report from Bloomberg, there was an external test of Fair Games that took place a few weeks ago. And some of the developers were concerned about how the game was received. Now, sounds like the people who played the test were not impressed with the game. And then we find that Jade's no longer there. Now, I mean, we've all worked in the corporate environment before. When there are disappointments and then people leave, there's a way to get rid of people that is kind of like a saving face kind of thing, and then there's a way to get rid of people where you just don't care and you just get rid of them. But Forte, my first question to you is: do you think Miss Jade Raymond was fired from PlayStation? What do you think?
Ooh, wow, fired? That would be. I mean, she was head of studio. So if I take it, supposedly the game is still in development. I think that game's going to get canceled, dog.
Supposedly.
It's supposedly still in development. I think that game's going to get canceled because I do think this is one, because remember when they announced the game and they showed it off?
I mean, they haven't officially announced that Jade Raymond left the studio. This was information that was provided to Bloomberg that they then went out and told people.
Yeah, so
if they canceled the game, then I mean that could be the next step.
Yeah, if they cancel the game, that's kind of it. I kind of think at a certain point, because this is one of the games that actually did make it through the live service conversation with Bungie and everything. And we always say, okay, well, this one made it. And I think if deadlines were not being... I think if you were a live service game and you actually made it through and you were still in development, you had to hit deadlines. You had to hit... like the same thing we were just talking about.
Yeah, this game definitely didn't hit deadlines. This game was supposed to already be out.
Exactly.
This game, they said last year, this game was supposed to be out in their prior fiscal year. Their fiscal year ended this month. They're now in a new fiscal year. Fair Games did not make that. So it would kind of make sense.
Yep.
The fiscal year ends and they want to know what do they really have here.
What do they have here?
Because it's not ready when we wanted it to be ready. It's and they haven't said anything. They haven't said jack about Fair Games.
Nothing.
So Marathon, we've had a lot of talk for months, and then they revealed it, and they got test alphas, and we got release dates. That one's still coming. All the whole time that they were talking about Marathon, not a peep was made about this game.
Nope. Not
and then we find out that it's, it didn't test well. Which, granted, Marathon didn't test well.
But people got a chance to play Marathon.
Well, apparently people had a chance to test this. It said it was an external test.
Oh, well.
So that means that, people outside the studio, maybe people outside of Sony, were able to play it. And, they're probably under NDA, so they can't speak on it. But they got to play it and they gave their opinion, and it wasn't very, very favorable. Brian, shout out to Brian. Brian East in the chat says allegedly, and I'm like, well, let's not pick and choose when to believe things that leak out from people who have sources. Like, it coming from Bloomberg means that it more than likely came from Jason Schreier, who has sources. The article I saw just said it came from Bloomberg. I didn't check the actual Bloomberg article. It could have been from someone else at Bloomberg. But more than likely, it's probably from Jason Schreier, which typically he has a lot of accurate sources at Sony. So, my bad. Go ahead, man.
No. I think if we don't hear something about this studio within the next month, we are, like you said, in the new fiscal year. I think if you were a live service game, once again, if you made, I just want to confirm,
Jason Schreier was the one who made the article. So,
he did. Okay, yeah. So that's almost like a death sentence, but
because it's fairly accurate.
Fairly accurate. I mean, but I do think if since this game made it through, they just could be missing deadlines, and when they came looking for some evidence on where we are in development, and they found out, like you said, supposedly if testing didn't go well, just the gameplay itself probably wasn't shaping up, or they said they need more time. They're looking at it like, well, more time means more money, and we're already kind of pulling back on our live service initiative. So let's just take care of this now, before we spend more money on something that's not going to do us any good at this point. So hope to be wrong about that, but she has been so many places in such a short amount of time. Like, think about
and not released anything. That's like, the thing. She the last game she released on. The last game she worked on was Watch Dogs 1.
And so she got all of this money throughout a pandemic. She basically kept falling upward and kept getting money from all of these people to do nothing, basically. Just to basically waste time if she's actually been fired from that, fired or walked away or whatever. I don't see.
Yeah, whatever it is, she fell on her sword.
She fell on her sword one way.
Yeah, whether she willingly chose, it's not looking good. Is what we're saying. Whether she chose to leave because the game didn't show well and someone had to be held accountable for it, and they felt she had to be because maybe the state of the game, the progress of the game, maybe it needs like another year or two. Maybe they think they got something good, but they just don't like how far Haven has gotten in the development of the game, and they felt like
on the wall. And she saw the writing on the wall and decided to pull the plug herself and get out before they made her get out.
But like when you this is your third.
Oh, I know.
Studio. Like,
that's why I don't think it's that.
At this point,
she got fired.
Right, because it's like at some point you can't keep doing this. You can't keep either leaving or, again, the whole Stadia thing wasn't her fault. But before that was EA. It's not a good look. And but in regards to the game itself, you don't think it's going to come out?
I don't think the game's coming out. I think it's over. I think Sony already put their tent in the ground on games like this, and I think the ones that made it through are the ones that they were going to ride with and go to release with. But when you're not hitting deadlines and they're not seeing progress, that all that stuff could get revisited.
Yeah. But the segue real quick. Well, before we segue, how do you think this affects Herman Hulst, who runs First Party
Well, a lot of people are gonna put this still on Jim Ryan because this was under Jim Ryan when all of these additions were made. So I won't put as much on it on Herman Host as much as I will if he did make this decision to like relieve her of her, of her studio, and they end up canceling this game, I probably would actually celebrate the fact that say I'm celebrating people losing their jobs, but
you would think it was a good decision on his part to make sure it didn't release.
Exactly, because at a certain point, like they can't have another Concord. It's like they already, and that's the thing I think a lot of people kind of got to realize. Like they had an embarrassment. Like people, that don't just happen, man. When you release a game, you sell it to millions of people or however many people bought it.
Oh no, she didn't say that. They didn't sell Concord to millions of people.
They sold it to hundreds of thousands of people.
No, it wasn't even that much.
How many?
They sold it to. We just gonna say thousands of people.
They sold it to tens of thousands of people. That's it. We gonna put tens of thousands. That's it.
Let's not even do that. We just gonna say thousands of people.
SloMo, they sold more than 10,000 copies of the game. It's no way they didn't sell at least 10,000 copies.
Did they? Did they though?
Did they? You say that with 100%
Look,
certainty?
because I know people gonna be like, man, why are you talking about Concord like that? I enjoyed Concord. I played the game. I got a free game to play for 2 weeks before they took it back because I got my money back. But I enjoyed the game. That said, the reality is the reality. It never hit 1,000 people on Steam. And sure, it wasn't just out on Steam. It was on PlayStation as well. Bruh, when you unlaunch a game, when you say the paltry, think PlayStation, okay? PlayStation, that if the game downloads to your console, you haven't even played it yet, you can't get a refund. That PlayStation who don't want to give nobody their money back. The same PlayStation that if you have a problem, and shout out to Brapper in the chat because this happened to him, if you have a problem with your account and you try to cancel payments that where they took the money from you, they gonna ban your account. Yeah. That PlayStation said, here's your money back. My bad. Yeah. About Concord. Not millions. Not hundreds of thousands. Not tens of thousands. We just gonna say thousands, okay? Because if you only got a few thousand people who bought the game, it costs you nothing to just be like, here, take your money back. We just gonna write this off. We gonna write it off as a tax write off. So you go ahead and get your money back because we gonna get our money back. Right. We gonna shut the studio down. We gonna act like this didn't exist. So yeah, but I agree with you. They don't want to go. They don't want to do another Concord, especially considering when we get into the next topic, where they're going in the future and what they're trying to do in the future. It's your reputation as a video game maker in a particular genre or a particular segment of the video game market is really important. And you don't want basically everyone to just like, whenever it says, hey, Sony's gonna, PlayStation Studios are gonna drop another live service game, and people immediately go, that game's gonna be trash. They haven't seen it. They ain't seen a lick of gameplay. They don't know what it's about. They don't know who's making it. They just know if you're publishing it, it's probably gonna suck. And so to avoid that, having that kind of reputation, you're going to try to do whatever you can to make sure that the very next game you release does not pull a Concord. And so I guess we could get into the last topic of the night.
Let's do it.
So PlayStation had some financial stuff to come out recently. They announced that they have officially shipped I think close to 78 million PlayStation 5s at this point. I think their official number of systems sold is like 75 that they actual sell through that have been sold. Those is like 75, like they said that at the end of 2024. So we haven't got another update on that part, but they did say that they've shipped 77.8 million units, which is good. But the new Sony CFO Lin Tao says that there have been two major changes to Sony Interactive Entertainment since their leadership changes, where Hiroki Totoki went from being co-CEO with Herman Holst to Hiroki Totoki was the CEO, the standing CEO after Jim Ryan left of SIE, and then he became CEO of Sony, and then the other guy, I can't remember his name, but that guy who was co-CEO with Herman took over all of SIE. Well, so Lin Tao is saying these two major changes have happened since these leadership changes. One is that selling units being the focus is a thing of the past, and now they're focusing on engagement and monthly active users, which I thought back in 2020 they said this, but I don't know. Maybe they said it and they ain't mean it. I think they mean it now. The second thing is that the financial discipline of their first party studios, and we've seen that when Hiroki Totoki was talking to some of the first party studios. I think it was Forte, correct me if I'm wrong. It was either Insomniac, and it was Bungie. They went and they said Bungie's very creative. They're very they got so much talent. Love to create their creative ability, but they don't have a good fiscal mindset. They don't understand how much these things cost, and so it seems like that has now that new shift in importance has now permeated throughout the rest of the studios. Lin Tao says that kind of mindset for all the first party studios has changed their mindset significantly. And so what do you think this means, Forte, for first party content for Sony? Now, I know that we're going to talk about live service.
Yeah.
At one point, but let's just talk about, because live service games really don't cost a lot. They don't cost as much as Sony's single player games do to make. Over time they could, because you do post game content. So I don't think they're talking about the live service aspect of things, but so much so we've heard the rumors about how much The Last of Us Part 2 has cost. We saw through the data hack with Insomniac how much Spider-Man 2, which is on the Jumbotron now, how much that game cost, which was like $300 million. They're looking at how much these games are costing, these single player games, and they're talking about the mindset has to change. And so what do you think that means for their first party content when we start to see more single player games come out? And sure, we got Ghost of Yotai coming out later this year, but beyond Ghost of Yotai, what do you think that change looks like in their content?
Okay, so what is the one thing that Sony is known for? What's the one thing that PlayStation games are known for the most?
Great single player cinematic experiences.
And the quality of that, and the part of the extravagant side of that is the quality of it, and we know quality is not cheap. Now, we're not talking about quality and gameplay because we know gameplay is king above all things. But the one thing that PlayStation Studios have that a lot of other studios don't have, they have both. They have the quality of the gameplay and they have the quality when it comes to the overall aesthetic of the game too. You know, when you look at games like Last of Us Part 2, and you look at the accessibility options in that game, and you look at just the way the characters move and react and everything in the game, the fact that you could be playing that game and not know that you are actually supposed to be controlling the character at this moment because there's no icons on the screen and you think you're still in a cutscene or something, lets you know how deep the quality control of things like that go, especially at a studio like Naughty Dog and a lot of their other first-party studios. You start thinking about Ghost of Yotai and the attention to detail that's going into that. You know, let's just, even if we go outside of Sony, because this is not just a Sony thing, this is an industry thing in general. Like, you go look at that.
Yeah, but they probably have a bigger issue with it than other people because their games cost more. Everyone's games cost too much, AAA games that is, but theirs cost. I think their costs are higher than everyone else's.
No, yeah,
it's not
outside of the Call of Duties and the Grand Theft Autos. Where that though, yeah, you're right. They're like up there, like, you know, when it comes to that. You know, like a game like Grand Theft Auto that's been in development for dang near 13, 14 years at this point. I expect the bottle of beer that's sitting on the table in front of the TV as they're zoomed in on it to have like fizz coming out of the bottle. Because that's the type of things that happens when you make a game for over 15 years. You do all of those little things like that. But when it comes to this, I will go back to the thing that she said. So the two things that, so before, you know, they're focusing more on MAUs. So yes, like you said, we're going to talk about the live service stuff later. But that was the first thing they mentioned. Let you know that is the focus. Like, it wasn't number 2, it was number 1. So we know, but we also know that's opposed to what the PlayStation studios want to do. PlayStation has been actively switching their studios back to the mindset of AAA first-party development, single-player experiences, canceling a lot of that other stuff that they were trying to do and moving on with the studios that they think can do that for them versus the studios that they want to do stuff like that for. But then that second part, the financial discipline, that basically is what that's telling me is you guys have to figure out how not to want to be awesome all the freaking time. Every idea you have does not have to be executed in the manner that you are doing it in. Like, if you had, like, this goes back to the whole the conversation we were having earlier about the other studios. It was like developers, especially when you're at a studio, like when you're known at a studio that goes above and beyond for the things that they do, especially like a Naughty Dog or a Santa Monica Studios or a Zombie to a lesser degree. They just make, you know, their games are just really great in general. But when you start looking, Sucker Punch is what I was thinking. Like Sucker Punch, they're another studio that kind of does that too. When you start looking at those studios and the things that they do you really have to go that deep to get the same experience that a player would get with a little bit less added to it? Now, we love the fact that but that's the thing. We love that they add that stuff. But I also think at a certain point, that's the stuff that balloons those budgets to the point where a Spider-Man costs $300 million to make. And that's on top of the fact that you just used the same engine. Of course, you redefined it, made it better, added more stuff to it. That's why the budgets blew up like they did. But when everybody saw that how much Spider-Man 2 cost them to make, we was like, dang, really? You already had all the assets and stuff. So what extra did you put into the game?
Okay, this is where I think they're going with it, and I'm glad you brought up Spider-Man 2. It's part of the reason why I decided to use gameplay for Spider-Man 2 because I think it's gonna really kind of like highlight my thoughts on this.
Yeah,
I don't think So Hiroki talking about Bungie's creativity,
Yep.
I think was very important. And I think it's pretty key because I don't think they want to put a lid on that. I don't think they want to put a cap on that. What I think they're going to start doing is doing more of a Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Yep.
Instead of a Spider-Man 2. And so Spider-Man Miles Morales did not skimp on the creativity. It was just a shorter, right? It was a shorter experience. It was a quarter of the budget.
Was it like $70 million or something like that, if I remember correctly?
Yeah, they spent so much little compared to Spider-Man 2 on Miles Morales, and they made a lot of profit off that game. And I think that's going to be their example of how you can take these experiences. You can still be super creative. You can still have your huge set pieces, because like Miles Morales did not skimp on that. They had their massive set pieces the same way you see it in Spider-Man 2. It's just that it wasn't as long of a game. And you know, if you look at Spider-Man 2, and we can ignore the whole Mary Jane, you know, let's not ignore that.
No, we can't.
None of that stuff
None
of that stuff needed to even be in the game. So imagine if you cut that stuff out of the game, how much less development time, how much less cost you had to spend on the game, and how many more people would have been happier with the game if they didn't have to play as
twice.
Mary Jane Lara Croft, right? So. Yep. There's that. There is just how long the game is in general. I thought it was a good Spider-Man 2 was a good game, but there's some people that kind of felt like there were some subplots and some acts of the game that were just like didn't need to be there. And so I wonder if you look at how Miles Morales is. You have Miles, you know, Peter goes to Europe. Miles is the only Spider-Man in New York. The Tinkerer shows up. There's the showdown at the bridge. There's that. Then there's the investigate. I forgot. There was the fight that he and Peter had with Rhino in the beginning. You know, this game, if you do all the content, it's like a 12, 15 hour experience. It doesn't overstay its welcome. There are plenty of people out here now who are tired of playing games where they feel like the time investment is a minimum like 60 hours.
Right.
And so when you do, so when you have shorter experiences, and it only took them 3 years to make Miles Morales compared to however long it took them to make Spider-Man 2. It would make sense that like you don't want to hinder the creativity because Miles, I think they evolved the combat in Miles Morales compared to Spider-Man 2018. You don't want to hinder that creativity and where they go with it, but it just doesn't need to be 5 hours long. And maybe it's just me personally, but I thought visually Miles Morales looked better than Spider-Man 2. And I don't know why. I don't know why that's the case, but visually, Miles Morales looks better. Maybe it's because the Tinkerer's like neon, like color aesthetic really helped in that. But it had to be more than that, because there's just really dope parts of Miles Morales where visually, like, I can think about those specific scenes because visually it looked great. And when I think about Spider-Man 2, and maybe it's because I played it on PlayStation, and so there's the limitations of the hardware, but there were specific times when I played Spider-Man 2 where I just felt like, man, that's gonna look a lot better on PC. And I don't recall feeling that way about Miles Morales when I played it on PlayStation 5. And I don't actually recall feeling that way about it in when I played it on 2018 on PlayStation. But back then, I mean, we weren't thinking these games were going to PC anyway, so that's probably why I didn't have that. Melee, I think that's the name in the chat. Said it's the character models, SloMo. Yeah, the character models looked incomplete, looked funky, looked weird. You know, and that's another thing. You know, how many years did they take them to make Spider-Man 2, and for the character models to kind of look weird, for animations to not feel quite complete, for them to not have a new game plus for the longest time after launch. It's just, Miles Morales didn't have these issues at launch. I keep comparing them because one was such a massive success and the other one was like a marginal success. And I think when it comes to financial discipline, they're gonna want their developers to look at Miles Morales and say, we don't want you to make, as far as like actual game, the same game, but we want you to find a way to scope down your game where maybe some of the this other content that you're looking at can be put into a sequel, but let's keep this a 15-hour experience. And it will be cheaper and we can make more money off of it. Am I off base here, Forte? What do you think?
No, you're not off base. I mean, there's only two things they can do. They can either cut back creative freedom and, you know, tell people if they want to make these bigger games, then you're going to be doing, it's going to be big. It's going to be less of that bombastic, you know, stuff going on in it, or go back and get back to the 15 to 20 hour experiences. Because I'll tell you, I remember when we were looking at these, when we looked at the budgets, we was like, good guess, Spider-Man was $300 million to make, Spider-Man 2.
Right.
And then we, like you said, then we saw that Spider-Man Miles Morales was like 80 million. It was like,
right. And in their chart, their biggest profit came from Spider-Man Miles Morales.
From Miles Morales.
That,
it was
by a large margin. That was their biggest profit.
Yeah, and we were like, and then we said, okay, makes sense because they really didn't have to do that much work because a lot of the assets were already there. Versus Spider-Man 2 was a bigger game in general. You had to combine two worlds together when it came to Miles and Peter, and new combat tree and everything for both of them. So yeah, I mean, granted, I love what they did with the game, but it was a lot. But then, like you said, Mary J. I remember talking about that, like you said, the Mary J. section. I was like, dude, if they cut that Mary J, I said they probably saved themselves $50 million right there. But then,
right.
but then I said, just cut that out. You probably saved $50 million. But then let's talk about Last of Us. Let's talk about Naughty Dog. Okay. Abby. Why do we have to play the same scene twice? Why do we have to do it as Ellie and then go back and do it again as Abby? Why do I have to do it with, you know, at this point, 8 hours straight of playing as Abby, going back to Seattle, traveling through to get to the same auditorium to fight Ellie as Abby, and praying that Ellie killed you because you can't stand her. So, but once again, how much more money would they have saved if they would have found a way? Not saying you cut Abby completely out of it when you play as her, but it didn't have to be 8 hours of it. We're talking about a game that was like 30 plus hours and only needed to be 20. So those are the things that they could kind of cut back. So I don't know if developers, I think it's like this disconnect on how do we keep people in our game. And the way we do it is by giving them more things to do, or like making the game longer. That's one of the biggest issues that like Ubisoft has when it comes to like Assassin's Creed and stuff like that. It's no reason Assassin's Creed should be an 80-hour game, but they are. But that's because people do everything in the game and it's kind of set up for them to do stuff like that. And that's fine. But when you're talking about a single player narrative game that has a point A and a point B, why are we spending 36 hours in that game? You're not Mass Effect where you have all of these different side quests and stuff that you can do, where like when I played when I played Mass Effect, because Mass Effect 2 was the longest of all of them. I think it was like 32 hours when I beat it. It's the longest of all three of the games. When I beat it, I didn't even think about the 32 hours because it felt like it flew by. But it's like all these other games, it's like they make you do all of these other things that you do because you enjoy it, but then you start thinking about it's dragging and you kind of wish this wasn't there. And those are all the things I wish they take out. Those are all the things that if you play test correctly, you could kind of remove and hit the cutting room floor. Because guess what? What is it? Hollywood? You know how much stuff they leave on the floor from movies that you probably love? Like they cut entire 2 hours worth of stuff out of a movie to make it like if you want to see.
Sometimes they cut too much stuff. No, like I'm just thinking about what was the name of that movie? The alien movie. Was it Prometheus?
Yeah, Prometheus. They cut so much out of that.
They cut the explanation of what the heck was going on.
What's going on? Would you? And put it in the DVD, the extras, so you could get more of the story. And I'm like, why wasn't this in the movie? It's so crazy.
Yeah.
But that's the thing though. So they can't be afraid to like cut that stuff. I understand people spent a lot of time on it, but you also got to think about the people that you're talking to and like, what's the risk reward assessment on it? Like if I cut this out or if we don't do this, does that mean this many people aren't going to play our game? I think Last of Us would have been perfectly fine with 3 hours of you playing as Abby. I don't think it would have hurt the experience one bit if they just shut that down to 3 hours.
You got some pushback in the chat about Abby. I'll say this, right? And I've said this before when it comes to The Last of Us Part 2.
Go ahead.
My issue isn't that you play as Abby or that you play as Abby for so long. My issue is that it was the 3 days as Ellie and then switching to 3 days as Abby and talking to characters that are already dead, that Ellie has already killed.
Yep.
That wasn't compelling. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Looking at Abby dealing with this love triangle that you had to get actors come in and mocap. You had to have the dialogue done. You had to animate this. You had to do the rigging to get the characters to work within the environment and the environments that you created in the game. All this work you did, all for us to sit here and watch two characters argue with Abby and you already watched them die. It's like, exactly. That's pointless. And so what they should have did is they should have went day one Ellie, then switched to day one Abby. And so then Abby, you can actually see Abby's reaction to like Ellie killing Nora.
Yep.
And in real time. And then when you see in Abby going through her love triangle stuff with her ex-boyfriend and his baby mama, it's somewhat compelling to you because they're not dead yet.
They're not dead yet.
and so you don't know the outcome of this love triangle yet, because by the time you see it in the game, you don't care because you already know like nothing's going to come of this. It's not like he's going to leave his pregnant girlfriend to be with Abby because they're both dead. And so it was those kind of issues that I had. I do think that maybe some of the stuff with Nev's, I forgot the name of the group, but some of the stuff with Nev's people could have been cut out a little bit. I thought that they could have pared that down to where you weren't stuff? Like they could have pared that down significantly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But again, I think another great example, forget The Last of Us Part 2, Days Gone. I don't like Days Gone. I think the game stinks. But almost every person that I know that likes the game said they liked the game, but they thought it was too long.
Oh yeah, that's a long game, bro.
I've seen people say they could have cut out 15 hours out of the game. I'm like, 15 hours?
Yeah, they could cut a lot out, bro.
15 hours? Like, how many years did it take them to make those 15 hours?
Oh man, how long did it take?
And that likely contributed to the fact that they didn't do a Days Gone 2.
Yep, I agree.
And so if you make sure, I think maybe that might be the move. AAA game development costs keep going up. A way to mitigate that is stop making these really, really long games.
Yeah.
And you know, and sometimes that's not going to work. Maybe you don't have enough, like for example, because like Ninja Theory and Hellblade 2, it took them 5 years to make a game that was like 10 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta have enough bodies to get the kind of like to deliver on the vision that you have. I think all they did at Ninja Theory was double the team they had, but the original team was like 25 developers. So you made Hellblade 2 with 50. Maybe you should have went with 100. I mean, you know, maybe you could have got that game out faster. You know, we're kind of going around saying the same thing over and over again. But I think that when they talk about financial discipline of their first party studios, I think that might be where we see their single player games go, which I think some people might find that to be annoying considering the prices of games are going up. So no one wants to hear that the price of games has gone up and you're giving me less content for the game that I'm spending more to play. You know, that's going to be an interesting dilemma they need to figure out. But we can go on to talk about the whole live service aspect of this. So they have talked about monthly active users and engagement are important things for them going forward. And if you look at like things, and I know this is just for the United States, but if you look at Circona, which the data for that is provided by Matt Piscatella on Blue Sky. If you look at, he'll show you weekly active users and he'll show you monthly active users. When it comes to PlayStation, it's the same 10 games every week and month. Like clockwork. It rarely ever changes. And most of them are not Sony's games. We're looking at like Roblox, Call of Duty, looking at like EA Sports games whenever the seasonal, you know, the season comes up for those games. We're seeing a lot of games, Fortnite, as far as like Fortnite shows up there when it comes to monthly active users, because this is not about a upfront game sale. It's about how long people are on the platform playing the game. And Fortnite is always in the top like 1 or 2. And so they have to, if this is what their focus is, they gotta nail these live service games, man. That's gotta be the only way to really do that. You're not gonna really get that with a single player experience. Sure, like myself and other people that I know have been playing Expedition 33 for weeks. But guess what's gonna happen in another month? We're not playing the game anymore because it's a single player game. And so if you care about monthly active users, you have to come up with content that's going to actually make that work. And so although it seems like Fair Games and Jade Raymond did not work out, well, we at least say Jade Raymond didn't work out. It may be, it would be a bit presumptuous to say already that Fair Games didn't work out, but they're not giving up. So if you are of the mindset that good, let your live service games fail so you can realize this should be what you was doing anyway. Get back to making my single player narrative driven experiences. I mean, you're still going to get some of those, but I think that thinking that the live service is over is just not going to happen. One more aspect of this topic we need to touch on. But before we do that, Forte, is there anything that you want to say about the live service aspect of this?
No, I mean, the live service side of it is going to work itself out. It just really depends on, is Sony, I think a lot of their live service is going to really come down to Marathon, honestly. I think
You think that that's going to be? Well, I mean, we haven't seen anything else. Well, wait. There's a Horizon.
Well, there's a Horizon one that they're working on.
Yeah, there's a Horizon one they're working on. Yeah, so like we haven't seen that at all.
Yeah, we haven't seen that at all. But I think I think they're really banking or really hoping, because not only if Marathon doesn't do well, that also puts Bungie in a very peculiar situation when it comes to that. Now, could Sony prop them up and still keep that studio going if they had to? They will. I don't think they would just turn the faucet off on that studio instantly, because they do still have a valuable IP in Destiny that, you know, we saw that they got a 2-year roadmap for. But
so what if now that brings, you know, Gregor's going in the chat's going to love this because I'm actually talking about Destiny. What if this gives Destiny more life? Because that's what's going to happen. All their other live service games have failed. Yep. And here's one that does have a solid community, but you're going to need to focus in on, of course, and then again, you know, talk about financial responsibility, you know, that pivot from those massive annual expansions to smaller expansions goes right to what I was saying about creating smaller experiences that still will have the same level of impact. It's just not as long. And that might be the pivot. This may, you know, the failure of these other live service games may have been to the benefit of Destiny and Destiny players.
Yeah, I also think it will force them to make a Destiny 3. If Marathon fails, this is the thing, and we haven't talked about this because Bungie is, you know, a lot of the stuff that they're doing, they introduced a Star Wars light story because they're going into the Star Wars universe with, not in the universe, but inspired by Star Wars. Now, I like it because I love Star Wars. So it's something that's going to get me excited. But the first thing I thought about when I saw this, I was like, Bungie ain't got no ideas because they have to use another IP to prop their IP up. Like, Bungie has never had to like go outside of their own lore or their own identity of what their game is to get people to play Destiny. Now, I'm not saying bring it because Fortnite does it and stuff like that, but Fortnite's always done that. Fortnite has always had all of these different skins and characters and events from Marvel and Star Wars and everything that kind of been in there. Bungie has had like skins and stuff for stuff, but they've never like had expiring stories based off of other things. So it kind of lets me know that this is like, they're like, okay, we need to do something to kind of reset the player base to get people more interested. And they're using another IP like Star Wars. Even if it's not, okay, like I said, it's not Star Wars, but the fact that you said a Star Wars inspired story, it lets you, it's like you can't do it off your own. You can't just say we have this unique, inspiring story that we're creating for people. You're using Star Wars to kind of like get those antennas perked to be like, oh, I like Star Wars. Let me come and check this out to see what they're doing. So I think this is the first step in that. And if Marathon doesn't do what a lot of people unfortunately think it isn't going to do, I think Marathon, they won't like do what they did with Concord. I don't think that will happen with Marathon. But I do. Yeah,
think they're not going to unlaunch it. I think that was they may even feel like that was. They may not say it publicly. Yeah, like that they had a very bad reaction to how poorly the game did at launch. Yeah, because to unlaunch a game that plays solid is not a buggy mess, and honestly, the majority of the people that trashed the game never played Concord.
Never played the game, right?
They may have actually liked it if they played it, but the character models were so ugly. The aesthetic seemed so generic. Like the game really kind of needed a facelift. And it makes me think about like Rainbow Six Siege, which really wasn't didn't have similar issues. Their issues was the buggy. It was a insanely buggy game and needed a lot of different balancing things to kind of make it work. But Ubisoft stuck with it, and it's something that you could be as critical as you want of Ubisoft, but what you can't criticize them for is how they support their games. And even though I said that, and I didn't like how they were supported Division 2 for a while, but they never gave up on Siege. Yeah. And I feel like potentially if Sony would have given even half the loyalty to the developer and giving some rope to the developer to work it out, figure it out, make changes and see how they work, it could have been a successful game. But you know, I don't think they'll do that again. I don't think they'll just give up on the game again. If they feel like if they feel so little of a game the way they felt about Concord when they decided to unlaunch it, I just think they just won't launch the game, period.
Right.
If they just feel like they don't have any faith in it, that where they can allow it to live for a month and see what happens. Yeah, I can understand some of these indie developers that create a live service game doing that, because typically when you see an indie developer do that with their live service game that didn't really catch on, it's because they ran out of money.
Right.
But Sony is not going to run out of money. That's not their issue. That's not the problem with them. It's just that it didn't do what it needed to do at launch, and they had zero faith that it could change. But I think that part of their inexperience in this live service thing is not knowing when to stick with it and give it another shot. They could have pulled a multiverses with WB Games where they pulled the game back to make some changes and then re-released it again once they kind of felt like it had a better opportunity in the market. They ended up still canceling that game, but still, I would have appreciated the effort,
I agree.
Yeah, all right. So last thing we could discuss on this before we get up out of here. Tariffs. Everyone's favorite word, right? Sony is considering passing the impact of tariffs onto the consumer, which would impact the price of the PS5 and PS5 Pro, of course, and probably the accessories and all the other, stuff that you can get that's PlayStation branded, the Portal, the DualSense, all that. And then they also said something that I don't believe would happen ever, which was they may attempt to produce PlayStation 5s in the United States, which, that ain't happening. That is not happening. It is way too expensive to build those here. You might as well, like the tariffs can't be that high. It ain't that. There's just no way. But I do think, and we discussed this before when Xbox raised their prices, that this was likely going to be a scenario for PlayStation as well. Forte, what do you think they raised the price of the PS5 and PS5 Pro to?
Oh man. Minimum $100. I think
okay.
I think PlayStation 5 will go to $599. I think the PlayStation 5
you're in, I don't remember what these prices are off the top of my head, but you work again. So tell me, what's the price of, let's start at the bottom. What's the price of the digital PS5? Digital
PS5, and we won't talk about like the special edition like this. They have really good discounts right now on the Astrobot ones. They're like in the $3. The standard. Standard system, digital $449, and regular price disc base is $499. I think those will go up to $549 and $599. And then the Pro, I think you're going to see the biggest jump. I think that's going to go up to, it's going to go from $699 to $829. I think it's going to be $130 difference.
$100 across the board.
$100 for the base systems and $130 for the Pro. I think the Pro is going to go from $799 or $699 to $829.
Good God. For a yeah, that's so wild. They just hear that number for a console.
Well, think about Xbox. Xbox took that Galaxy system, the 2 terabyte X. They took it from $599 to $729.
Yeah, but I mean, from a few $100s from the PS5 Pro, you can just go build yourself a starter PC and just build from there. And for those before some of the console peasants get all upset. I'm not saying build a PC that's on par or better than the PS5 Pro at the same price. I'm saying spend a couple $100 extra and just build you something that would I would say give you far more value in the long run.
Right.
And then you can upgrade it as time goes on and make it, way better than the PS5 Pro at your own convenience. But yeah, that price is just, yeah. I mean, it is what it is, man. I still do think that, like, I think I've been having a few conversations with people in regards to the impact of the price of consoles in the next like year or so. Mm-hmm. I think the part of the not the excuse for them doing it, but part of why they may feel comfortable going this route is kind of due to some other software changes that are happening in the market right now as well. Like, this is a kind of a pivotal year because this is the first year where the last gen consoles are not getting some of these annual release games. Mm-hmm. Like Madden 26 is in this August will only be on current gen consoles and PC. Yep. And so if you are someone that owns a Xbox One X or a PlayStation 4, PlayStation 4 Pro, and you still play on that because all you play is Madden every year, or you play is NBA 2K every year, maybe some FIFA, probably some Fortnite or something like that. Like you're only playing like these annual release games. You got a choice to make. And more than likely, you don't really care about having the latest and greatest and the best technology because you're still on last gen. So you're going to go for whatever the cheapest thing is. And it's really going to come down to what personal value you place on playing Madden, the next Madden, right? What personal value do you place on that? Is it worth spending $500-$600 for a digital PS4? Is that worth it to you? That in addition to the game that you gotta buy, it might be. And you are you good, man?
No, I'm just getting over a cold still.
Okay. I think it comes down to really testing how people place a price on the value of a product, because these games are going up to $80. That's one issue. The consoles are going up. That's another issue. You got people who were still on last gen who are more than likely are going to try to spend their most they can on like the cheapest thing possible, which unfortunately Xbox doesn't make their console and they in just in time supply and demand right now. So they don't make enough units to put on shelves to justify to be able to for them to kind of take advantage of this. So you're going to get a lot of people who are potentially on the Xbox One S, Xbox One, Xbox One X. They're going to end up buying a PlayStation, not because they wanted a PlayStation, but because they couldn't find an Xbox to get. But they got to play Madden. And so they're going to go do what they got to do, and they're going to go get a PS5 and go play Madden on it. And that's going to go towards the same thing for NBA 2K, and especially GTA 6 next year, because that's not on last gen. It's not even on PC. So I think that when it comes to these prices going up, it sucks, and it will continue to suck. But I think the changes that are happening in software are going to kind of mitigate some of the impact of that for them. What do you think, Forte? You think the software no longer being last gen is going to help kind of push this along?
I think it's gonna. I think it's gonna help, but I also think, depending on when they make these changes. Like, I think if they make these changes now, you know what? It's gonna help. The sales are gonna go up anyways because people aren't gonna be able to play their games. And the one thing I do know is if people really want something, they will find a way to afford it. By hook or crook or one way or the other. So I don't think it's gonna hinder. Prices are gonna really hinder people from buying the consoles that they want. I think the thing that will kind of hinder people are the prices of games going up across the board. When it comes to trying other things, this might be a situation where it might help these services and stuff that do have something like Game Pass, or how Ubisoft Plus is, or EA Play, or PlayStation Premium. You play that low fee, or it's not a low fee, but you pay the monthly fee, and then you just have access to a bunch of games and stuff, because games outside of playing the games you want to play every year, it's a gamble. Do you really want to spend $80 on a game that you might not like and you can't take back to a store if you open it, or God forbid you buy a digital copy?
Nobody does. Nobody does. But then when it's something they really want, people start asking questions. For example, one of my coworkers is really into Madden. It's the only video game he plays.
Yeah.
The only video game. Every year, he's into that Ultimate Team stuff. And I never understood it. And I never understood how EA made so much money off of it. But then he starts explaining to me how he's in these leagues. And he's like, they do a full season.
Yep.
And they're putting money in.
Yep.
And whoever wins the Super Bowl at the end of the season gets all the money. And then they run it back. I'm like, on the same game, he's like, we do this 3 or 4 times before the next Madden comes out.
The amount of money that you put in on your teams to make sure you win it. Oh man, it ain't no joke. It ain't no joke. I will say this. I played a lot of college football this year, and it was the same thing on there. I have gotten a very, very close look at what the demon looks like when it comes to spending money in Ultimate Team. All the way up until this point, because I don't care for Madden, so I just didn't, I knew it was there, I just never played it, so it was never something that I even interact with. With college football, oh man, I was in there. I spent well over $600 in Ultimate Team. Well over it. And guess what? Now that we're 2 months away from the new game coming out, because the new game comes out in July. Now that we're 2 months away from it, I think about that $600 and I'm like, I can't take that to the next game. It's like that is stuck on 2025.
But so I brought that up, right? Because when these guys are thinking about spending $10 extra to buy the game, when you think about what they're going to be doing in that game and how much money they're going to spend in that game for the next year, $10 is nothing.
Nothing. But when it comes to the games that they don't care about, they'll be more selective in those games.
Right.
Because
exactly.
And that's the thing that I think is going to hurt the most, because people aren't Go ahead.
But you know, hold on. This is what Bowser with Nintendo said, and we saw Phil Spencer say something similar about this variable pricing kind of thought process, which is, I say, hey, us gamers need to start engaging more in variable spending. Like if the game ain't worth it to me, whether I'm interested or not, I'm not buying it because the price ain't really worth what I think the game is worth. But you notice Nintendo's not pricing Donkey Kong Bonanza. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, Bonanza.
They're not pricing Donkey Kong Bonanza at the same price that they're pricing Mario Kart World, because they know people aren't going to spend $80 on Donkey Kong, but they'll spend $80 on Mario Kart. And so with these publishers, you're going to see publishers choosing to price Madden at $80. Randy Pitchford came out here. He lost his mind, but he been crazy, talking about basically insinuating. This is supposed to be a topic, a rapid fire topic. I forgot. He's been insinuating that Borderlands 4 would be $80. I don't think a lot of people feel like Borderlands 4 is worth $80. So this goes into kind of like what people kind of are going to start doing. And I agree with you. It's not these big tentpole games that basically are the lifeblood and the foundation of these publishers' annual numbers. It's the other games that they make that people may feel the impact on. Or, right, you are someone who engages in playing EA college football. Matter of fact, I'll use you as an example, Forte. You love EA college football. The next one comes out later this year. It's $80. You're like, I gotta play it. I hate it, but I'm playing it regardless. So you spend your $80, but now, because you're spending more, maybe you play that, and then maybe you play NBA 2K, which is also $80, and then you play, and now because the games that you feel like you have to play cost more, you may not be as willing to engage in the smaller content. So even though Expedition 33 is fantastic, that's a $50 game. Now maybe because you spent so much more on other games that you felt you had to play, you no longer you no longer take the risk on some of these smaller games. You spent out. I'm tapped out now. I've hit my limit on how much I'm going to spend, and it's not because of this particular game. It's not that I don't like what I see from that game. It's just that these other games cost more now, so now I'm spending more overall, and now I'm not going to spend as much on the smaller experiences as I once did.
Yep, I agree. More than you know.
Yep. So I just, it's a lot to kind of figure out, right? It's a lot to kind of go through, but I think I agree with you. I think they're going to be all right for a while, and it's mostly because hardware wise, there's going to be a lot of people. Roughly half of the PlayStation community is still on the PS4. A good number, I don't know what the split is for Xbox, but I know a significant number of them are still on Xbox Ones. When these games are no longer supported, Call of Duty is another one that's going to stop supporting last gen very soon. NBA 2K had, I don't play 2K, but there's something, a specific mode or feature that was in the last one that was current gen only, which is kind of, now you're starting to get to the point where you're closing off certain features from last gen. More than likely, you're about to just start just not supporting it whatsoever. And so as these, you got Call of Duty, you got Madden, you got FIFA, you got all the EA Sports, you got NBA 2K, you're going to have Call of Duty, not Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto 6 next year. That's also not going to do it. All of this is going to be forcing people to come up off of the last gen consoles. And then when Epic sees that, when they see their engagement numbers and see not so many people are playing Fortnite on the PS4, it may become a point in time where they can say, well, hey, look, the next season that we do, it's not supported on last gen no more. It's on mobile, it's on current gen consoles, it's on PC. Because when you don't have the numbers to justify making sure there's a version of it that's working, then you're just not going to do it no more. So we'll see, man. We'll see. Anything else you want to say on this before we get to the outros?
No, man, we killed it. Just like Jade Raymond and killed herself multiple times at all of these different companies she's been at over the course of the last 5 years. Man, she just
leave Jade alone. Okay, go ahead, bye.
I can't believe that this woman has left 5 different companies. I saw that tweet that you said, not the tweet, the message you posted in our group chat about all the places she's been like in the last 6 years. I'm like, dang, it's like Stadia just seems
she hasn't launched the game since Watch Dogs 1.
Right. What is that?
Yo, what I think that is that, and I'll say this is something that I was going to say at the beginning, but I was like, let me save it for the topic, but I forgot, so I'll just say it now. We're already kind of moving away from the point in the gaming industry where there's like these rock star developers, like your Kojimas, your what's the Gears guy name? Why does his name escape me right now?
Cliffy
B, right? Your Cliffy B's, you know, your Casey Hudsons, and these guys that like
Casey Hudson.
People hear their name and they immediately think about the games that they made, that they love. And so I think now it's starting to get to the point, the industry's kind of been moving away from that for a while.
Yeah. I agree.
But I think now the gaming community is going to start not caring about that either. They don't. I already don't care about Kojima. I think all of y'all are kind of. Let me not say too much.
Well.
Kojima, but Kojima's like the last of a dying breed. Because no one else can kind of get away with the stuff that Kojima does in the game, but everyone else just, you can't do that. You know, Miyazaki with Souls games, like people love the guy. But he's a kind of a one-trick pony, man. Like, it's the same thing. Y'all gotta admit it's the same game design every time. It's just it. Eventually, I think people are gonna just stop caring that. Oh, what you made Assassin's Creed 2? Well, okay, Jade, you made Assassin's Creed 2. That was great on my Xbox 360. It is now 2025. You haven't released anything since 2012. And what you released with Watch Dogs was a disappointment. So I think people just gonna stop checking for these people. It's not going to be a news bit no more. Hey, Jade Raymond's opening a news. Who cares? She don't release games. Drop a good game and then I'll pay attention to who you are. That's the kind of mode I'm in. I don't care who you are if you made a whack game.
Facts. I agree 100% with that. Well,
Yeah,
I just thought I would never get to the point where I feel like her career has almost went up in flames as bad as Phil Harris's went.
Oh man, Phil Harrison is the gaming Grim Reaper. If he is in charge of your launch of a platform, it's over.
It's over.
It's
bro.
dead. It's dying. It's not going to happen. Just, you know, and I'm sorry if Phil Harrison ever hears this, but bruh, you know what your resume look like.
Man.
Just come on, bro.
It's kind of wild. But that's it, man. Let's get up out of here.
Oh my God. Gregor says, imagine not liking Kojima but being a fan of the Commanders. Yeah, a fan of winners, okay? We win out here. Kojima don't win.
Oh, man.
He ain't win game of the year, okay? We win out here. We're winners. Imagine being a Cowboys fan.
Oh. Oh my God.
Oh man.
You said imagine being a Cowboys fan.
Stab my eyes out if I was a Cowboys fan. Who wants to watch that? Anyway.
Oh my God. Here y'all go. Fight.
Gregor, when's the last time your team made the NFC Championship? Oh, you don't want to talk about that? You want to talk about that? When's the last time your team won a playoff game? You want to talk about that? Okay, all right then. I didn't think so. You know, you ain't winning no playoff games this year either, but you know that already. Anyway, outros, Forte. let the fine people know where they can find you.
Yeah,
not missing the playoffs like the Cowboys, but let everyone know what you're doing.
Listen, the Patriots might make the playoffs this year, and the Lions, they looking like they are going to make the playoffs this year, especially if they get Trey. They get Trey. What's the name from the Bengals? Because it looks like both
have better chances than the Cowboys. So good for them.
Yeah, that's true. You know, at least the Commanders did beat the Lions last year, so we have to prove that we could beat JD5 before we can say anything. But
yeah. We definitely going back to the playoffs, you know, unlike some other teams. Go ahead.
All right. All right. Game Forte, YouTube, Twitter, Xbox Live, PlayStation. We see you guys next week. We're gonna do our best to get the super chat thing taken care of, so you guys will be able to ring it up next week if you want. But with that, enjoy your weekend. I just got a picture of 4 people camped outside my store for Pokemon cards tomorrow. And they're already camped out. They've been camped out since 8 o'clock. It's wild out here. Be safe. Hide your women. Hide your family because people are crazy. But with that, you guys have a great week, and we will see you guys next week.
Oh man, I like talking trash.
I know. I know you do.
I told Forte this, but I'll tell you guys this as well, because I probably will start it this weekend. But like, I know I talked about doing like going through all the Borderlands games up until Borderlands 4, but then I thought about, you know, if I do them in chronological order, not the order that they release, but in the order of the story, I should add the pre-sequel in, because it really gives a lot of additional context to like Handsome Jack and the things that happen in Borderlands 2. And so if I'm going to do that, I do need to start on Borderlands 1 sooner rather than later, because then if I do Borderlands 1 in May, Borderlands pre-sequel in June, Borderlands 2 in July, I can do Borderlands 3 in August, and then in September there's Borderlands 4. So I'm just going to live stream it. I've been kind of I would have went live a few days ago, but I've been trying to test out this multi-streaming features that are now in OBS, and it's a little janky to be honest, but I think I got it figured out. So because I want to stream it on my SloMoBackSlap channel as well as the DPS channel, especially considering I started my SloMoBackSlap channel as a Borderlands channel like long time ago. Do not look at that first video. It is awful, okay? But it is what it is. Anyway, I probably either tomorrow or Saturday I'll go live, and I think I'm gonna start with Lilith in Borderlands 1 Game of the Year edition, which is not the best port on on PC. Thanks, Gearbox. But I can't remember. I think I have played with Lilith before. All of my times I played through Borderlands 1, I always used either Roland or Mordecai. So I've almost never really used Lilith like that. So I wanted to do a new build with a character that I didn't typically use with that game. And I'm going to do that for all the other games too. So look out for that. And I think that's it, man. I'm going to get up out of here. Hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night. Hope you guys enjoy your football teams that will be making playoffs, unlike the Cowboys. And we are out. Peace.
You're dirty, bro.
Cowboys suck.
You are wild.